Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and it's early October 2022, and it's time for another garden tour brought to you by my sponsors, Vessi Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. We just got our first frost last night. I think we had a risk of frost 2 weekends ago. So it's getting cold, it's feeling like fall. The leaves are falling, the leaves are changing color. There's still some green leaves on the trees, but we're starting to get some color in the forest and some leaves on the ground. And a lot of things have changed in the garden, so let's go have a look. Here's the sort of raised beds that are outside the garden enclosure. Everything in these beds is done. I've harvested all the potatoes and all the pumpkins. We didn't get a lot of pumpkins, but we got enough to, you know, I just grew like jack-o'-lanterns here. We got enough to decorate the front step and, you know, that sort of thing. That's the kind of pumpkins that I grew here. Just the kind that you know, make a face on and then, you know, make a terrible tasting pie out of. You know, so I got to do this from a different angle because of the angle of the sun this morning. So we're sort of in the, I guess what we call this, the southeast corner of the garden. We're starting from here. Over here is where the cucumbers grew last summer, and all we really got going on. And here's a nice parsley garden, which we're enjoying. Pretty soon I'll harvest all this parsley and make a kind of, I guess, paste out of it, in a very similar way to how I store the garlic scapes. I just put these in a food processor, a little salt, little lemon, and whiz them up until they make a kind of green paste, and then I just freeze that in the freezer and use it as I need it. I should do a video on that, I guess. It's a great way to store any herb. Got nice kale happening over here. I guess my shadow's all wrong. This is better. Nice kale going on here, right? Going to be harvesting some of that really soon. Starting to get frost now, so the kale's starting to taste good. Got a bit of a catastrophe happening here. Something has gotten over my fence and is going to town on my grapes. I had clusters and clusters of grapes here and they're all gone. Should have harvested them, I guess. Last night, these ones seem to be still okay, right? So I haven't lost all of them. Since we're starting to get frost, I guess it's time to harvest them. Not enough to make wine, I don't think. I never seem to... a lot of them have been lost to whatever's eating them. And I'm not sure what it is either, because a lot of these grapes seem to be have been sucked out of the skins. So I can't see a porcupine or a bear, or a deer for that matter, eating them that way. A deer wouldn't get over this barbed wire without doing some real damage. So I'm not sure, and I don't, if it was a porcupine, I'd be inclined to see there'd be porcupine poop everywhere, because that's kind of what they do. So I think it might be chipmunks or squirrels that's doing that. But boy, a lot of them are gone. A lot. So anyway, we'll have to harvest these today or tomorrow, I guess, or we're just going to lose them all. Make some grape jelly or something like that. On this bean garden where I had the trellis, that's all done. I've harvested some of the bigger, fatter Vortex beans for seed. The bush beans are all done. Everything's done. Carrots are still going strong over here. Got a carrot garden over here. I've been harvesting from this one. This one's, you know, getting some beautiful, nice, big, fat carrots out of that. Today we're cooking Canadian Thanksgiving dinner, so I'll be pulling some of that out of there today. I got some nice, big, fat carrots in this garden here. I got some nice beets over here. Still a few beets that got to come out of the ground. We've had a frost, so it's time to stop messing around and get some of those beets out of the ground. Maybe I'll have some of those with Thanksgiving dinner. Parsnips over here. Haven't harvested any yet. I like to let them have a really good freeze. I might pull some today because they're really nice to have with Thanksgiving dinner. Over here I've planted garlic. You know, I had garlic here last year, and I put some in here. I just did a video on that a little while ago. Check that out if you want to know about planting garlic. It's time to do that. Over here I got nothing planted here yet. Haven't decided what I'm going to do with this, but you know, I'll probably just leave it. It needs a bit more soil. It needs to be topped up, and I've got just the place to get it from. More on that soon in this video. This bed here has just got Egyptian walking onions in it. I got sorrel here, sorrel over there. This bed here was just a weedy mess. This was oh, pak choi, I think. So I just covered it with bags, kill the weeds that way. Same thing with that one over there. Easiest way to deal with weeds, if you got some old cardboard lying around, just smother it out and leave it like that all winter. I decided to make this garden here a garlic garden. This was squash last year, or, squash in summer 2022. So yesterday I brought the soil level up another 3 inches, got some soil from another place in the garden, and planted a whole bunch of garlic there yesterday, probably about 80 or 90. So I'm almost done my garlic planting. I've got one more bed to plant of garlic. Over here, the Swiss chard that kind of looked like crap all summer long, if you saw some of those videos. It looked so bad I was ashamed to show it. But now look at the Swiss chard. It's just gorgeous Swiss chard. Right? Nice and green and big. And that's the thing with Swiss chard, it's worth growing. But it really comes into its own in September, October, even November, depending on how cold it gets. A little bit of frost, the cooler days, it just does so much better. Long-term plan is to turn this into a massive goldfish pond. I haven't started yet. Well, I've kind of started, but not in full whole hog, and I'll explain that as we go along here. Sort of chip away at an explanation for why that's taking a while. These collard greens are looking really good. Again, it's another one of those plants that just loves a bit of frost. So I mean, they're just big and green and vibrant. A little bit of frost we got last night is just going to make them taste so good. I cannot wait to have some nice collard green. You can tell, collard green and fried chicken and beans. What is it? Black beans and rice, or red beans and rice? That sort of thing. That sort of southern cooking. I love that. This squash garden is done, completely done. I have to put that to bed for the winter soon. Tomatoes here, totally done, harvested. We've even eaten them all or used them all. They're all gone. Strawberries, I'll be putting a mulch on that soon for next year. But I don't mulch my strawberries till about November. They're still growing. The greens are still gathering energy from the sun. So why would you cover them? Right? And if they're still gathering energy, that means they're still storing energy in their roots, which means the longer you let them do that, the better, deal you're going to have the following spring. So I'm just letting them do what they do. This lovely little kale garden, which was a garlic garden, right? But once I pulled the garlic, I just moved these kale from other places in the garden where there was too much kale. The kale was planted too closely together. So I spaced every plant out here nicely, right? Every plant's about 16 inches apart. It's funny that the spacing of studs in a house, standard building code, is an ideal spacing for a lot of plants in a garden. Anyway, they're all doing good. This tree, I'm gonna have to move this tree. So I got a raspberry garden here. I think this is the wrong place for raspberries. I'm gonna have to move these. I'm gonna move a lot of things this fall. I've never done this before, but I've read that these plants that are like berry bushes, fruit trees, all those sorts of things, where all the leaves drop, they're deciduous. All the leaves drop in the fall. All the energy gets stored in the roots. From what I've read, once the leaves start dropping off the tree, the roots still continue to develop. And so actually fall's a good time to move them once you see the tree beginning to go somewhat dormant. Basically, once you see the leaves starting to turn. So I don't want this to be a raspberry garden. I need to move these raspberries, and I need to move this apple tree, which is going to be a real chore, if I can even do it without killing the tree. This was the first year I got apples off of this tree. It is the wrong position for an apple tree, so I got to move it. So I'll make a whole video about that at some other point, explain why. But it's basically, you shouldn't have a big shade casting thing in the middle of a garden. Not a good idea. I've harvested all the potatoes from along here. The sunchokes are starting to die and fall down and that sort of thing. We're still getting some flowers, but the sunchokes are basically getting ready to be harvested. That's another thing I want to move out of this area. Again, it makes shade. It casts shade. The sun rises in the east over there in the summer, and anything growing next to these sunchokes is just stuck in the shade from you know, at the hottest point in the summer, this bed here, which, you know, the beds that are near the sunchokes aren't getting all that beautiful sun. So again, just all these things, you think something is a good place to put something, and then you spend a couple seasons with it and you're like, that's the wrong place. And once you realize it's the wrong place to have something, there's no point in waiting for that to get better. It will not get better. Right? You can, I guess there's ways to work around it, but if you're trying to sort of optimize things, make the most of your space, you got to move stuff, right? So we'll be eating a lot of these and moving them. The asparagus garden here is a bit of a disaster zone, but we'll deal with that next year. All this space, all of this stuff here, this little goldfish pond I made this year, which worked out great, except all the little fish died because I'm pretty sure frogs ate them. But it's just in the wrong spot. That's the short version of it, so I have to move that. I've talked about it at length in other videos, so I'm not going to get into it here. This lovely little pond that I made, it's going to be filled in, and I'm going to make a much bigger pond right over here where it makes, at least, I hope I don't change my mind, but it makes much more sense to have a big pond right here. It'll be a great source of water. It'll help control our runoff from this hill, right? I'll have a French drain running, water comes down the hill and goes across the garden, so I'll have a French drain, basically like a gravel trench going all the way along this edge, running into the pond. And I'll have a massive pond here. How am I going to get this all done? No idea. Somehow this will all get done. But before I do that, I have to move all of these berry bushes, right? So I've got these berry bushes, and they're like 4 feet high. And actually I've got, and this is supposed to be a pear tree, right? So initially when I built the garden, there was a fence here, and this was the end of the garden. That's why I've got all these damn fruit trees here. When I started, this was the north end of the garden. And then I started expanding beyond there. And so that's why I've got all these stupid trees and bushes and berry bushes and things in the middle of my garden. So all this stuff has to be moved, right? So I don't know how it's going to affect I had an amazing, this was the first year we got tons and tons and tons of blueberries. I got my freezers full of them, right? And we've been enjoying them. So I finally got a good crop of blueberries, and I got to move all my blueberry plants. And I'll be moving them to over here, right? Where these beds are. This will be basically berry bushes, and at the very end will be where the fruit trees go. Where those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 beds there, and that'll be like maybe 1, 2, 3 or 4 fruit trees at the most, with a lot of space around them, right? Because fruit trees need space, right? And all this will be removed, and this will be berry bushes, probably planted that way and spaced out so that they're easy to pick, right? Because picking this was a disaster this year. All right, so I have a lot of real estate. I'm going to keep these beds here because, well, number one, I moved, because I'm going to turn this into a pond. I plucked out the nicest looking strawberry. I tried growing strawberries here last year. Didn't really work out so well. So I took out the nicest, biggest ones and moved them over here. This still needs a mulch and all that jazz, but I mean, so this is a strawberry, right? This is my partridge berries, which has produced some, right? You can see them in here. Most of them are being, it hasn't produced a quantity large enough where it makes sense to me to cover this with here's a little bit here, right? I haven't got enough where it makes sense for me to net it and worry about it. Just a handful here and a handful there, not enough to make jam, right? But these have been in the shade of a big apple tree. You'll notice, see how much more open this looks here. So I had an apple tree here that's been growing for years, and actually got a pretty good yield off it this year, but it's got a whole bunch of varieties of apples that aren't really disease and pest resistant. It just has never, and it's one of those trees that's got like 5 kinds of apples grafted onto it, and it's just never been a great apple tree, let's just put it that way. So, and there's no way to move a tree this diameter without incredible equipment. So never happy with the tree's results in the wrong place. I just cut it up and threw it in the woods. So some people are, you bothered by that, but sometimes you just got to do stuff like that, right? So this area will be turned, I'll put beds here. There'll be a 4x8 bed here and a 4x8 bed here, right? This will all be beds going, basically beds like this will be going up this way. And I should get a fair number in there. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, there should be room for about 6, I would say. So I'll gain a lot of garden space. This big tree will be moved. And if it kills the tree, I'll get over it, right? Because by moving that tree and taking these sunchokes out of here, this will be a very sunny spot. And sun's good where I live, right? You need it. You really can't get, you don't get far without good sun, right? So that'll make a big difference. It's a lot of work, but I think it'll make better use of the space. And I'll get better results. It's better to have, even if I lose, I'm going to lose some garden space, I imagine. But, or I don't even know if I will, because really, this whole area here doesn't have a lot. I think I'll probably just break even or do better. Basically, I'm going to sacrifice okay garden space for optimal garden space. So I think I'll get better results over the long run. And I'm basically changing my garden to make it work better. And I think I'll get better results. So part of that process is taking, I mean, in each of these beds I've got this beautiful soil, right? But what I'm going to be doing with this whole area here is covering it with wood chip mulch, you know, from tree service. So it doesn't make sense to have beds anymore. The beds will be moved out. And so all this beautiful, you know, the top 5 inches of soil that's on these beds, I'm moving that to my existing gardens to enhance them, which makes sense, right? Some of it I'll just put in a big pile to use in the new beds that I'm going to create in this space as is claimed. It's a lot of work. But I mean, the garden's sort of winding down, especially the month of October. Not much. October is always a very active gardening season for me. Trying to find a couple of young guys to hire to help me do some of the work. But that's easier said than done these days. So keep working on that. My kids are helping me, but they're not big and strong, right? They're still young. I don't want to, you know, I get them to help me, but I can't have them doing like really heavy stuff, right? So yeah, I need, like, you know, a couple people who are strong to help me out if I'm going to get this stuff done quickly. If it's just me doing it, I might pull it. If it's just me, I might pull this all off before freeze up, and I might not. That's the long and the short of it. The leaves are starting to fall, so it's time to move these fruit trees. Before I do that, I have to get all this stuff out of here. That's a lot of work, right? So great exercise plan for fall. A lot of things to do, but pretty much everything along here is done. I have to say, I got a fantastic pepper harvest out of this garden. I mean, I've got, how much would you say? At least 5 gallons. Let's put it that way. Think of a 5-gallon bucket. At least that much peppers out of this garden. And this is the first year I've ever gotten real results with peppers. I even have notes. I mean, for those of you that follow the channel a lot, when I do my garden tour, you see the notes I leave for myself every year. You know, try this, don't do this anymore, give up on that. And I've got years where I've told myself, give up on peppers, don't bother anymore. But I mean, it's something to be said for persistence, because, you know, I had Lee Reich, he's a gardening book, an author of gardening books, and I was telling him, oh, I just can't seem to get peppers going. He said, try these sweet Italian peppers, which are these sort of things, right? This got missed, and this got frosted last night. Looks like you can see how one side is one color and the other side's dark. That's because it froze, right? So yeah, I meant to do a video harvesting all of these and talking about persistence and how important it is and blah blah blah. I might still do that, but it would have been better if I'd been able to show the bounty coming out of this garden. It would be kind of artificial to do it now. I'd have to bring the peppers back out. Right? Anyway, the day I harvested them, I basically came home from work and I went inside. Then I noticed there was a risk of frost the next day, And I came out pretty much in the dark with my son, and we harvested them all as quickly as we could, right? Same with everything. We basically harvested everything that could be damaged by frost, all the squash, every single thing in the garden that is frost sensitive came out in a very short amount of time. Didn't have time to mess around with videos. So that's done, right? But yeah, and of course the sunchokes fell down with Hurricane Fiona, and that's where they've been ever since. That's fine. That is not going to be a sunchoke garden. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with sunchokes next year. I might have them along the back. I might not. I don't really know. I don't want them messing up my trees. So I want every tree to have, like, 6 feet between the tree and the fence. So there's plenty of room around the tree for harvesting and working and stuff like that. So there'll be a lot of this sort of dead space that's just covered in wood chips and isn't growing anything. But anyway, I haven't worked all those details out. These are just ideas in my head. Right now against the fence, right, we've got all these different kinds of fruit bushes. But it's not a good spot because they're against the fence. It made sense at the time, but I'm going to move all these. Yeah, they're going to be further this way, right? That way you can get at them from every side. It's a little more open, just I think they'll do better by being moved away from there. Anyway, so that's where we are, early October 2022. Garden's winding down, but a lot of work to do out here and a lot of changes to effect before next year, before the ground starts to freeze, right? And I got to take an entire goldfish pond that I have way over there that's quite deep and get the goldfish out, fill the whole thing in, and put them in the new spot. I haven't figured out how I'm going to make all that happen without killing the fish, but that's the joy of this thing. Sometimes one of my favorite things about gardening is you don't have to have it all figured out to start, right? You can just start with a vague, just like writing. You can start with a very loose idea of what you're trying to do, and as you're doing it, the solutions are emergent, right? You just start realizing, and sometimes you mess up and things get down in the wrong place, and 2 or 3 years later you want to change things again. That's the great thing about having a channel like this. I can experience all of this, share it with you, and if any of you try to do any of these sorts of things, you can learn from my mistakes and insights and that sort of thing along the way. That's kind of why I'm doing this, right? So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Download free podcast. Check out my weekly column, maritimegardening.substack.com. Write an article every week, new recipe end of every month. You can subscribe for free. So be a paid subscriber. You can subscribe monthly, or you can subscribe for the entire year. I think it's $30 for the whole year, $5 a month, something like that. If you're a paid subscriber, you get to see everything. If you're a free subscriber, you just get to see some stuff. Either way, it'd be great. So anyway, thanks a lot. See you in the next video. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, want to help support everything I'm doing here? Check out my sponsors, Vessie's Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. For Vessie's, go to their website, vessies.com, and use my coupon code GAVS22, and you'll get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in your order and there's no oversized items in your order. Check out the description box of this video for details. For Safer's products, Woodstream products, you can buy all the things I use in my garden, slug and snail killer, BTK, Endall. You can buy that from Vessie's, or you can go to their websites for a much wider range of products to solve just about any kind of problem that you can imagine with high quality natural ingredients like oils from seeds and flowers and stuff like that. If you're in Canada, go to woodstreambrands.ca, and as long as your order is over $69, you get free shipping. If you're in the United States of America, then go to saferbrand.com, and as long as your order is over $45 US, you'll get free shipping from them. So yeah, if you want to help support the channel and the podcast, and they sell something you need, buy it from them, and that'll help support everything I'm doing here. Thanks a lot.